Hey guys, welcome to another week of the Agent Boost Marketing Podcast. We've had quite the exciting week, very eventful. We'll kind of get into that here in a little bit. But we got Rich Post, one of our experienced agent success managers or directors, whatever we want to call him.
Whatever my title is this week.
To just kind of sub in for Dan. Dan's doing high school football stuff, and we just wanted to make sure we got some stuff out. There's been a lot of stuff happening in the industry. We here at Agent Boost just had our national kickoff, our rollout, had a lot of our national partners out here. So we did that on Tuesday and Wednesday. And, you know, Wednesday, I just kind of want to jump right into it and address this and get it out of the way. But as many of you know, we're headquartered here in Lehigh, Utah, which is about 15 minutes away from UVU. And obviously everybody knows what happened this week with the murder of Charlie Kirk. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time there because most of you are not listening to a health insurance podcast to hear my thoughts on that. But it was extremely impactful for our community here. I regret that we had a lot of partners out here, and it was a dark day for Utah, you know, a stain on our community. And that's not what we represent in any form or fashion, any way, shape, or form. And so condolences, our actual thoughts, prayers to his family and anybody affected. You know, again, not a political show, not going to get too deep into it, but we had friends, family members. My son-in-law was in the building when it happened, and we had, you know, many young youth that are friends of ours and agents, family members of our agents witness that event. And so it was quite impactful. And, you know, to our friends and family that came out for this event, our agents, our national partners, you know, that's not what our beautiful, loving state represents in any way, shape, or form. And it was a kind of a definite stain on our event on the second day. So, Rich, you have any?
My thoughts, man, were just, you know, I wouldn't say I struggled, but it was just kind of having to talk to my kids and kind of walk them through that. You know, as a father, you know, I want to protect my kids, you know, and I don't want them to see things like that. And, you know, they had the social medias where they saw it. And, you know, I told my wife, I was like, you know, once you give your kids, you know, cell phones, you know, the world has access to them. And, you know, we just have to, you know, I took them aside and just kind of just said, hey, you know, that again is not reflective of our society and how we should behave. We should be able to have civil discourse and disagree, you know, and, you know, I'm a kid from the 80s, so I just, you know, sticks and stones, you know, the words will never hurt me. And so I just, you know, and also I just feel sad, you know, for his family. You know, I just put myself in his shoes and, you know, what is that family going to go through now? And two young kids, a wife who's alone now. Man, it's got to be tough. So,
yeah, again, you all don't listen to this podcast for our thoughts on that. And, you know, if you're interested in my thoughts on it, you know, maybe we can speak differently or a different format. But I just felt like we'd be remiss if we didn't address that, as that was a very important thing that happened literally 15 minutes down the road while our event was going on and kind of disrupted that. So I just wanted to address that there. And, you know, shifting back kind of, unfortunately, the tone of the insurance industry wasn't much better. And the news coming out this week of, you know, kind of the way that the landscape is emerging for 2026 and beyond. And, you know, just to kind of, we'll circle back to the AEP event that we had, the rollout, because we did a combined ACA and Medicare rollout. But a lot of news dropped this week about all the big carriers unveiling their, you know, next round of non-commissionable and suppressed plans for 2026. And it was, I think, probably one of the most impactful weeks that the industry's ever experienced because, you know, to say it straight off, you had United Healthcare drop a massive list of plans that are non-commissionable and suppressed for AEP. And as everybody knows, they're the largest insurance provider in the country. They are the 800-pound gorilla in the Medicare space, and they are a tone setter, and they are a major component to our industry. And they came out with a list and a lot of plans that were probably even more aggressive and all-encompassing than even Dan and I hypothesize. So, and then once they had done that, it's kind of the carte blanche for all the other carriers to show their hands, because it wasn't like, they already caused the big wave. So here come theirs. But basically all the carriers came out with a pretty massive percentage of their plans across the country that are not going to be commissionable. We've seen what HCSC is doing. Some states, they have, Texas, no commissionable plans there for that carrier.
Yep.
Cigna.
Well, it's funny. I just kind of add in on the HCSC. I was literally having agents submit their contract requests, and then 2 hours later, I get the email for the non-commissionable in Texas and Montana as well, I think. I'm just like, oh, great. I just probably submitted 10, 15 contracts. Yeah. Now what?
Yeah, and guys, Dan and I sit in this seat, and we try to be optimistic and put a positive spin on a lot of this stuff. And, to quote my dad, you can only polish a turd so much. And it is what it is, we're definitely going through some pain in the industry on the Medicare and the ACA side of things. And, I know there are different agents and agencies and distribution partners and carrier partners out there that are, trying to put their own spin on it and, talk about put a positive spin on it, but it definitely is not great for the industry. And especially if you're an insurance agent, if you're an FMO, if you're a broker in any way, shape, or form, it's just made things even harder. And ultimately, why we continue to talk about this, as it's been one of the biggest issues that we talk about on this podcast, is it ultimately really harms the consumer. And I think that we're heading into an AEP and an OE on the ACA side of things, where consumers are probably at an all-time high for needing help.
Correct.
And there's an all-time low for morale, compensation, and qualified, sophisticated agents for them to get help. And,
well, even choice now.
Yeah,
right? Choice, right? That's kind of been one of the big advantages of, hey, I've had a plethora of plans to choose from, and as soon as they start going non-commissionable, so me as the agent, I'm always going to try to do what's right for that member, but what am I going to do? I don't work for free, right? No one does, right? And so it's just, choice is a big deal.
Yeah, I believe Dan and I talked about it on the podcast, but, NABIB and some of the other agent organizations are coming out and be like, remember, you can't charge a consulting fee to help people with these plans. That's illegal. And it's like, okay, I guess you should do your jobs for free too, or not expect to be paid in any way, shape, or form. And then I'm going to get into our rollout, and my whole topic was just on this, how to win during AEP and OE. And first I recapped a lot of these challenges. And even since I was literally putting the final touches on my keynote, a lot of this stuff was coming out and getting even worse and worse and worse. And we were getting more details. And it was just hard to keep, putting that spin on it. But we're seeing a lot of agents, and frankly, I said it in our rollout, and I think Agent Boost has the best overall caliber of agents in the entire country. I will say that. I know a lot of you guys are on good organizations and good shops. I think we have a lot of the most sophisticated, long-term, successful agents in the industry, a lot of great talent. And a lot of those guys and gals, they were shell-shocked when we were kind of recapping some of the news, and the carriers were kind of dropping their information. And we had agents that have been in the business a long time that were like, well, maybe this is it. I'm forced to kind of rethink my entire career. Yeah. A lot of agents with books of business can't even sell them now because a lot of their plans need to be completely rewritten. A lot of their books, where their clients are, have to be completely rolled into something else. And like you said, what's emerging this AEP is a barren wasteland of much less options and much less help than there's ever been before for anybody in the Medicare space.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and it's just seeming like, every day we come into this time period, and it almost seems like there's more questions than there are answers right now. But nevertheless, the time is here, and these people are going to be needing help. And it's either they're not going to have the plans and the options that they'd had before, or they're not going to have anybody to help them with. And, looping back to our event, we decided to do it here. We were going to do it in a much larger form and fashion, and have it a much larger national thing. And we've keep talking about that, how we're going to do that. But surprise, surprise, there's industry difficulties and changes around every corner these days. So we're always continuing to adapt as well. But it was great having our partners out here. My takeaways were they're all in the same mindset too. They don't like what's happening. They're cautiously optimistic. And the carriers all want to grow-ish in certain areas, and really not grow at all in others. They want to completely shed membership.
Yeah, I look at it as they're just trying to kind of protect themselves or whatever, protect their shareholders. So there's God, I can't even talk. Strategic on where they want to grow. Like here in Utah, I think we're pretty safe, right? Not as dire straits or whatever here in Utah, but other places it's going to be bad, I think.
Yeah, very expensive places like major metro areas, large states, large populations, high cost, high MLRs, really hurting, and then counter the rurals.
Yeah.
And when I started my talk, that was one of the things that was the first thing that I mentioned was rurals are going to struggle this year big time. And when I say rural, everybody knows what that is. There's rural areas all across the county. You all that are back east, you have, probably less what would be considered rural, but the further west you go, it gets, the counties get more and more sparsely populated.
Yeah.
And there is really basically a barren wasteland of plan options for people. And because we are based here in the West, we have a lot of distribution here in, Idaho and Wyoming and Montana and Utah and Nevada. And there are areas like Wyoming where the big, it was celebrated a few years ago when MA plans started going out there and serving these consumers. And basically everybody's winding back the clock 5 years, and those plans are completely going away.
Yeah, and back then, in those days, their only option was, hey, I'm just going to be original Medicare and a sup if I can afford it, or just original Medicare and a drug plan, and that's it. So it's kind of going back to that.
Yeah, and that's where it's going. Idaho is extremely challenging. There's United Healthcare decided to make none of their plans there commissionable, and they were set up just like Dan and I had talked about the prior podcast episodes. They were set up to win that membership big time, and they're essentially saying, "Don't want it. Don't even place it with us because we don't want that either." And so we're still a little bit unsure as to who wants to take that membership, across those states, because that's not quite as rural as Wyoming, but it's definitely struggling as well. And so there are beneficiaries and agents that we have an agent in Wyoming that has a few hundred, 500 clients on the books, a few of them with one or two carriers that have been the only carriers out there. And they are completely exiting, and their entire business revenue and their entire book of business pretty much gets evaporated
overnight.
And they have no choice but to go use guaranteed issue SUPs and help those people. But then there's not very good compensation economics for a lot of those carriers and a lot of those plans to where it keeps good, qualified, sophisticated agents interested in the business. And, that's something that I talk about often, and I coach agents and I tell them all the time is you are a high caliber professional.
Highly paid professionals.
You're a highly paid professional. Yep. You are an expert in your field. You should expect to be compensated like in other professional services, like a lawyer, like a doctor. If you do a good job and you are knowledgeable, you should expect that. Your time is valuable and you are helping people with their health and wealth.
Agreed, yeah.
One thing that I've always criticized about Medicare, even before this point, is the compensation even still doesn't always attract the best and the brightest into the industry. And now it's even killing those off that have been willing to serve these clients and have done a good job. And maybe that's the intended or unintended consequence is a massive weeding out of people and a consolidation of the agent community in the industry. But that is what's happening. There's a lot of people that are looking to move out of the space. And what I want is, if we're helping vulnerable people, if we're helping seniors, if we're helping those with their health and wealth, with their insurance, I want the best and the brightest. I want the smartest and the most ethical people. I want the hardest working people that can get a good ROI for these insurance carriers and for CMS and do a good job. I don't want to have to, scrounge and find the cheapest way, the least effective way, or the most cost-effective way to try to help a consumer and get an enrollment, because that doesn't get the quality or the expertise that we need in this industry.
Yeah, I want the person who's got the highest, not necessarily skin in the game, but the highest compensation, because he's going to do the best. He or she is going to do the best job, right? And so, yeah, we kind of, I'll shift it to like the military. The same thing we're seeing there is we have basically like a brain drain. The people who've been in the longest, have all the knowledge, are starting to leave. And so the same thing, I can see the same thing here in the insurance industry, as these agents who are top tier are starting to lose their compensation. Does it get worth it for them? And then you just dilute the product, right? At the end of the day, you're not going to have the best and brightest helping Mima at the kitchen table. They're just going to be like, well, hey, we're going to slap this plan. I didn't even look at your drugs, your doctors, your benefits. Here, this is the best. And they're in that vulnerable situation. They're just going to take that person's word for it. I don't like that situation at all.
Yeah, well, and then on the upside of it, there's been a lot of agents and agencies who have sold out to private equity. We talk about it all the time. Everybody knows there's been a lot of PE roll-up with Integrity and AmeriLife, ourselves included. And these people go through their earnouts, and these principals are serving their time, and they want to grow, and they have bonus metrics. And then all of a sudden, the industry keeps changing, you see it. You see some of these principals that did a deal a while ago, and they're like, that sounds like a you problem. You know, like I got a bag a while ago. I'm through my earnout, and I guess I timed that really well, because there's a lot of pain going on right now, and that sounds like somebody else. And you talk about brain drain. A lot of those people and principals and talent, frankly, their best days were behind them, but a lot of them weren't. They grew successful businesses. They're amazing leaders and entrepreneurs that we want in the space, and we just keep creating an environment that's not conducive to inspire the best and the brightest. And look, it's not just our industry.
No, it's not.
There's a lot of other industries that are going through pain and evolution right now, and it's part of the deal, part of our growth as a nation, part of where we're at as a society and tech and the full implementation of things, and kind of the accumulation of decisions that have been made before us. Other industries are going through it as well. But I just, I wanted to talk about a few more of the changes, and then just like always, I am going to loop it back and try to put a positive spin on this for you all, and I am going to try to encourage you all to evolve and become what's necessary to really survive and thrive in this industry.
Yeah. So
a couple other things that you have, the carrier exits. You just saw more carriers announcing they're completely getting out of Medicare. The numbers that pundits and analysts put out in the industry, and that the carriers themselves, they are far too low. They're really trying to minimize how many actual service area reductions there are. And the carriers try to almost do a little bit of sleight of hand with this, where there's a whole other type of market exit that I'm calling like HICN swaps, like the HICNs or the plan number swaps, where they're like, oh no, we're not leaving this market. We're just completely killing off that plan or all these other plans or all of our plans, and we reintroduce this one. And they may or may not be crosswalkable, meaning they're going to be shifted automatically there.
Usually not.
Yeah. Because they're not like-kind enough, and they're going to manually need to be re-enrolled into that. And if they lose a lot of that membership in that transition to the newer filed plan, they're okay with that, Yeah. And so I'll get into how you can counter that as an agent and what you should be looking for. But another thing, we just belabored the point of the plans that are going non-commissionable and suppressed. And I guess it's going to be like it was when people first started selling in multi-states across years ago, where you just pull up a zip code and you're like, well, you're in luck. There is a plan, and this is what it is. Take it or leave it. You know what I mean? Or, sorry, there's no plans available, and let's look at, if you want to get on a SUP with GI, or if you're just going to, go right back to original Medicare, because you're going to be, you're in a no-go zone. One of the things that I talked about before is agents really, really need to change their mindset and their thinking about what doing the right thing for the client is. Because we are licensed insurance professionals. We have a fiduciary duty, which is a legal, moral, and ethical duty to do what's right for the client, And what that's meant for a lot of clients over the past, or for a lot of agents, is, well, I'm obligated to find whatever's the cheapest plan for them or the most affordable, the best benefits, quote unquote, and put them on that. I'm ethically and morally obligated to do that. And what I'm not suggesting that you don't do that. What I'm suggesting is that you readjust what you think doing the right thing for the client is. Because if you were selling them a car, your only thing wouldn't be, I'm going to find you the cheapest car, right? It would be, well, what are you looking for? You want stability. You want reliability. You want something with some extra features. You might be paying a little bit extra, right?
We get into what they actually need. I always tell my agents, it's like, I'll have an agent say, well, I can't beat this plan because it has the most groceries. What if that's not what they even need, right? Like, well, if their doctor's not in network, well, hey, great, you got $179 in groceries, but you can't see your doctor that you've been seeing for 15 years, right?
Yeah, and I can't remember if I talked about this or not, but there was in Eastern Idaho, there was a WellCare plan that was disproportionately really good. And there was a couple agents out there, when they went suppressed last year, they could only take a paper fax enrollment. Well, a couple of these agents were like, you're not going to trick me, WellCare. I'm going to go and I'm going to still find a way to make it happen, right? And they photocopied a bunch of paper apps. They went and wrote a few hundred apps and were like, this is the best plan for my clients. So this is what they're getting on, Well, as we all know, and we've talked about repeatedly over the past few weeks, that plan's obviously not profitable. It's not sustainable. And what's going to happen is it's going to be exited. Mm-hmm. And so now those agents with all those plans, that plan is exited just like it was. And now they have hundreds of people to change. And that's not a good experience for your clients, for your consumers. Guys, Medicare Advantage plans were never made to change every year, for you to have to flip to a new plan every year or at multiple times a year. Carriers, you can't get good, consistent quality of care. The carriers don't even know what that life needs and how to manage that and actually implement a coordinated care model with some sort of intelligence or sophistication and start actually getting better outcomes until that client's been on the plan for around a year or more. And the longer those carriers, those people are on those plans, the more they can optimize that life and potentially have better outcomes if there's not a lot of disruption, And so I want you to challenge what doing the right thing for your client is. For me, I don't have a problem going to a client and saying, hey, here's your couple options here. There is this plan here. It's non-commissionable. It has these benefits. If you really like it, I would put you on that. Here's what I think. I think most likely that plan's not likely to be around because, of historical analysis, because I've been in this industry. I'm an expert. I also think that plan's probably overloaded and the carrier doesn't want membership on that. So I don't know how that I don't know what your experience is going to be like on that plan. It may perform poorly. You may have issues and long times getting claims paid or, billing issues, things like that. They're obviously struggling, which is why they're not incentivizing me to put you on that plan. Or I can put you on one of these other plans where, yes, I do make, a proper commission on it for helping you in your service. And it's probably signaled to the market that it's a healthier, more sustainable long-term plan. I can guarantee you that almost always your clients are going to choose that other one unless the benefits are just so drastically different or access to care or doctors that they can't make it work. Because people, if you give them a chance and you explain it properly, are generally reasonable.
Yeah, I tell my clients, listen, I like plain vanilla. I want a plan that's going to be consistent over time. Why am I going to switch you to this other plan and just delay the inevitable? I'm going to have to change you anyway.
Yep.
Right? So do you want, again, XYZ benefit just for 12 more months? Or you just want to be on something consistently that I know how it performs already? Just kind of echoing what you said.
Yeah, and I have plans that have been, or clients that have been on this Aetna Advantage plan for 14 years. It has not been the best plan in the market for a decade plus. But I can't get those people to move off it because guess what? It worked for them. They had They went and got their healthcare needs. The plan operated, functioned properly for them. It paid their bills. They knew what they had. They don't want to like have to deal with changing their insurance all the time. They were just happy with what they know. And guess what, guys? I still believe that's how the majority of Medicare consumers are, and all consumers. We've all just got it in our minds that every year we gotta race to the bottom, and we gotta always like push and represent what the best benefits are. Like, well, if the plan I have my client on only has a $100 grocery card, but they find out that, you know, the other plan has $125 in grocery cards, they're probably going to switch. And that's probably true for a certain subsegment of the Medicare population. And to be frank, that was the race to the bottom cycle that a lot of these marketers and call centers and lead generators had promoted. But you have a whole subsegment of Medicare consumers that are like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to change my plan all the time to chase a handful of benefits. Are they a good insurance carrier? Are they going to pay their bills when I need them? Are they going to be around? Do I know how the plan works? Do I trust them to be around?
Well, one thing that I've often found, and you know, my own mom's in this category, when I changed her to a plan that had groceries, she literally halfway through the year, she's like, I don't care. I want to go back. Right. I knew how it worked. I didn't want to change. Well, I wanted to change, but I don't like the change. And so I think we're the same way as a consumer myself, like, you know, having to change all the time. I just keep it consistent. I know how it works. So yeah, I think we're going to eventually what you'll see is if you sell that way, if that's your business model, hey, I'm always just going to sell the grocery card or the most money back in my check, you're going to be losing some of that business or having to rewrite it. And so therefore you're not even growing, right? You're just running on the treadmill.
Well, and there are a lot of agents like that, you know, where it's just like, well, this plan's 10% better in benefits this year. Looks like I got to proactively convince all my clients this AEP that they need to roll, you know? And I'm like, that's a lot of work when they're probably happy and content on the plan that they're on, you know? The other thing I had with changes in the industry, guys, is I was encouraging agents to support the carriers who support you, right? And it sounds cynical to say this, but, you know, all these big insurance carriers, we love the local broker managers. We love the people we work with. We love those personal relationships. We all want to like reciprocate for those people. They become friends, our industry friends, they're welcome in our offices. They're welcome at our, you know, we hang out with them outside of work. But at the top, they are all corporations that are giant corporations, and they are making business decisions based on bottom line, earning per share, and course-correcting dollars that they are losing. And they've shown that they are not afraid to cut broker commissions, do whatever they need to, you know, a me-first mentality, and then your partnership doesn't generally carry a whole lot of weight, you know. Those guys that hooked you up with your leads or your co-op program or whatever, while it was great, is all good. And you might have carried the water, and you've built their books of business. You've built these giant, you know, very profitable clientele for these giant insurance carriers. And the second that the economics aren't good, it's like, well, let's burn it to the ground. And any goodwill that they've had with agents just completely goes out the window.
Yeah, so we're low-hanging fruit, in my opinion. Right?
Yeah. Well, I think the prevailing thought is, well, everybody's doing it now, and it's, you know, pretty much industry standard. Yeah. So they'll be there when we're ready. And that's probably true to some point, you know, as I'm sure when these carriers want to grow again, it's going to be back like, we're sorry. Here's a little bit of money. Here's some
dangle the carrot.
We'll pay commissions again. Remember
I'm sorry, I won't do it again.
I'm sorry, babe. I didn't mean that either. I just yell sometimes because I get so scared of being a nobody. Why don't you just come back upstairs, honey? I'll give you the old smoochy smoot, kissy wissy.
But I do think there's a lot of carriers out there that have overcorrected or burned partnerships and distribution to the ground more so than they needed to. Mm-hmm. And there are carriers that I know agents have basically made their whole career and their whole living on one carrier in one area in one state by being a loyalist, and that has really bit them in the butt now.
Yeah, there's a few agents I'm hopeful for them. You know, I'm definitely going to support them if they need my help, but I'm worried for them.
Yeah.
You know, are you going to be around next year?
Yep. And so I would just say, guys, whatever you can do, support the carriers that do want to grow. Support them where they want to grow. Reciprocate for the people who are helping you out, because good partnerships and loyal partners and loyalty in when times get rough are really valuable and they're really important. And so that's one thing that I would, just encourage you agents, not just to sort of bend the knee and be like, well, you're torching the industry in this regard, but I still think you're, it sounds like a abusive relationship and you're going to just keep, doing their bidding regardless of what they do to you. I'm just, anytime you can look to, even if it's supporting a different carrier, a smaller carrier, regional carrier, or somebody like that that's doing a good job and trying to grow and service these people, look for those opportunities. So a couple other things, we still don't really know where all the PDP stuff is going to land. We still are dealing with very aggressive compliance right now. And I don't know if and when that's going to stop, where I really am kind of confused as to some of these carriers in particular, the well cares and the devoteds, but it's not just them, it's everybody has really cracking down and cleaning up a lot of messes that they've frankly allowed and caused, but being overly aggressive in compliance. We had a funny interaction with one of these carriers, and I was like, oh yeah, are you gonna sell these guys at the rollout? And he was like, nah, I don't think so, because I don't want to get termed and, lose my book of business, and said that right in front of the carrier rep. And I just kind of was like, see, I mean, you could all go out and try to tell these agents that you want to be partners, but if they do some, place business with you and they get one complaint, that most of these complaints are, well, I was giving you forgot this little thing, you're terminated.
Yeah, I was giving it to him downstairs. I was like, hey, how are you going to terminate somebody one and done? What about that moment for coaching? Right. And then also, like, why are you I get there's a complaint come in and the complaint is totally not what you termed the agent for. You were like, hey, it's a intent to enroll or permission to enroll. And that was unfounded. But then you were like, well, you said 3.5 stars and it's actually 3 stars. Like, why are we getting so nitpicky? Did the agent do a good job? But then also I was even like, well, if you're going to term the agent for not doing a compliant, why did you even approve the application?
Yeah, exactly. Did you? Yeah.
So it's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Well, I definitely think that has to, wind down a little bit, because it's just really, really aggressive. And I think, like we've talked about on prior episodes, the tone is basically like, we don't want any virtual sales, especially, but it's not just virtual sales. It's field agents too. And you are in this business long enough, you're going to get a complaint. And, most of the time it should be, oh, you said you didn't enroll. Is this your signature or this your voice? You very clearly did. Done. End of story. But they go back and use it as an excuse to make sure every metric was done with perfection. And again, that disproportionately affects anybody who happens to do business over the phone, whether they be a call center or just an agent that, a field agent that does an enrollment, in across the state or state lines. And I really don't like it. I don't like how aggressive that's become. One of the things that we're struggling with is I'm trying to get new, good quality, caliber, talented agents into the business right now. And the learning curve is steep. You know what I mean? There's a million things you have to learn. You have to learn all these things for compliance. You have to learn all these regulatory things. Each market's different. And you have a new agent and they have a misstep, and they start getting termed from a carrier. It's like, it's so demoralizing, especially when you're new in your career.
Yeah. And then, you think about it, it's like, hey, I just got termed, and then they kind of domino in their mind, and it like leaves this negative taste. Right. And so this is from my agent, when's the next one?
Yeah.
Like, when's the next shoe going to fall? And like, I did everything I did to the best of my abilities. I made, like an unintentional mistake, and you fried me for it.
Yeah. I think I gave some sort of statistics, but until about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we'd only had 3 agents ever termed from a carrier contract ever in the history of Agent Boost. And now it's like, you wake up, who's termed today? Let's go through and look at the term list. You have your oh, we brought on this many agents and this many agents are getting term from these carriers. And all we do is talk about compliance and coaching all day, every day, and beat it into their heads to the point where it's just like, but it's hard to have everything with perfection right now. You can give them the best script. And it's like all of you compliance people and all of you people that write these scripts and all these rules and all you regulators and all you CMS, have you ever tried to enroll somebody or do business using your own processes and protocols as the letter of the law? You absolutely have not.
Period.
Because you would realize how absolutely cumbersome, asinine, and unrealistic it is to have a real flowing conversation, needs analysis with another human being and be like, it's been 30 seconds. I need to tell you this disclaimer. And people are like, what? Like, I don't trust talking to you. Like, what are you talking about? It's been within a minute of a call. Hey, I got to interrupt you and I got to say this really quick. So some compliance regulator doesn't terminate me. Yeah. It's wild. It's
not
so
how normal
wild.
people talk, right? It's like, yeah, you definitely have to say some disclaimers, like agreed, but like in the first 37 seconds, like that's so off-putting. Like I'm trying to help this person, right, with integrity and just say, hey, like, tell me about your situation. Can I even help you?
Yeah, I was trying to help my father-in-law's best friend, and I'm like reading. I'm like, hey, I got to read, and he's like, why are you doing that to me? Like, why are you saying that, Mike? That doesn't make me feel very comfortable. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I have to. Like, it's weird. Yeah. Sorry. I'd like to just have you talk to you like a normal human being, but no, I've got to be a living embodiment of a massive impact statement and disclosure statement,
I read them to my own mom. I was like, hey, I'm going to be compliant enough.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, my favorite is one of our agents who got a complaint from his own mother. I'm like,
oh man,
guys, come on here. I know this agent, this lady did not want to issue a CTM complaint to Medicare on her own son, who they have a great relationship with, and was trying to help. Like,
well, it's like, are they getting coached?
Whatever happened to get it to that point was not necessary.
Well, I often imagine like when the customer calls in, let's say they're complaining, they didn't know this or didn't know that, and they get that call center rep, and that rep's like, do you want to file a complaint? That's the only way I can help you. Because, for sharing stories, I got one, this is years ago. I signed this lady up on an MA only plan, right? I literally walked into her house. She's a federal retiree. I want to be on an MA only plan. I'm getting drugs through my Federal Blue Cross Blue Shield forever and ever, right? Cool. I'm not going to argue with you. I just make sure you understand how it goes. 9 months later, hey, she didn't know you had signed her up for a plan that didn't have drug coverage. I'm just like, really? What have you been doing for 9 months?
Yeah.
What? And I literally have to fill this out. Like, how did this even get here? So anyway, I'll get a little emotional.
We could get a million complaints of like, and I would say probably 1 out of 50, I go, what were you really doing, dude? That was really bad, and everything else. It's like, really? That's what you think is correcting the industry right now. Yeah. Anyway, just going into that, guys, the final piece that I talked to our agents about before we talked about the positivity stuff is all of the call centers pretty much shut down and going away, or at least minimized. That is a major component where those entities, and smaller entities, have been helping, whether you think it was good or not. They've been doing a lot of the enrollment work, and a lot of those are either hampered, gone, discontinued, out of business, can't sell like they were, or their model they've gone out of business this year. And that's a great opportunity for all of the agents that are remaining and businesses that are remaining. But I'm just saying there's going to be even more labor, even more people that need help with that. Okay. So I'll have Mosiah, I'll send you this pitch deck and you can throw it up on the screen. But what I coached all agents was, number one is have a plan, right? Going into OE, open enrollment on ACA or on annual enrollment for Medicare. And step one of that plan is you have to defend your book. Meaning, if you're in this business and you have any clients, whether that be 10 clients or 1,000 clients or more, you need to understand a couple of things very deep. who's being exited this year, okay? Which of those plans may be moving to like a non-commissionable? Are you going to get paid on those commissions in perpetuity? Who needs to be swapped? Who may not be in a complete service area reduction, but may be migrated? Are they going to be crosswalked?
Yep.
Or are they not? And you need to segment out your block of business right now, and you need to identify and triage them. Who needs to be helped first, okay? You need to go through and find out those people and get them to schedule a review as soon as possible. Now, again, reminder, you absolutely cannot talk 2026 plan your benefits until when? October 1st. But you can still do prep work. You can still segment your business. You can still contact people. You can still schedule stuff, and you can prepare in September. And you're going to see ANOC's annual notices of change are starting to go out.
Yes, they are.
People are going to start calling you. You can start answering questions. But the work you do right now is going to help you maximize your next 6 months. Okay? Identify all these people that you need to move. And I would say handle as much of your service work October 1st through the 15th. Tee them up. Get those apps ready to go. Get those apps ready to be submitted on the 15th. And be prepared so you can have the majority of your service work done by the time it's actually go time. The other thing is, part of that plan is turn all of your service work into money. Every time you are going through and you are reviewing plans with your customers, make sure you're asking them, hey, do you need dental, vision, hearing? Do you need this ancillary plan? Do you need help with life insurance? Do you need any of these other things available? Here's the options I have. You need to have a lot of those opportunities now more so than you've ever had before, because benefits are getting peeled back. Dental, vision, hearing all across the country. Costs are going up. There's more exposure. There's more opportunity than there's ever been for dental, vision, hearing, and indemnity plans. And also, life insurance and other products that you may sell. So my things are AEP starts now. It starts whenever you're listening to this podcast. Hopefully it's prior to October 1st. Use that time, treat it, treat it as very important quality time that you need to maximize right away. Well, I got to wait till October 15th and then I'm going to get to work. Do it now. The other thing I said after have a plan is burn your boats, right? Burn the boats. And that's the mentality of this is it. This is all in. I'm all in right now for this time in my season in my life. That's what good agents do. They commit to putting extra time and effort in during annual enrollment to not only service their work, maintain and protect their book, but grow. And so do things like go to the doctor right now. Schedule any appointments you need. Go prep, go buy extra food, go do whatever you need to do. Go get your car serviced, go get your tires rotated. If you drive and you're in an area where it's snowy, go get your new tires now. Yep. Go do that stuff right now. Get your personal life in order. So for that special annual enrollment time, you can maximize that. Okay.
May I?
Yeah.
Hey, so what I've been telling my agents is I've trained my family over AEP. I do not exist, right? If it ain't about money generating activities between those money generating hours, it can wait. Barring life milestones or emergencies, right? Because again, this is their time. This is our Super Bowl, right? So if you're not prepared, and I'm going to start adding what you just said, just kind of all those other things, right? Because then they just become distractions, right? Anything that anybody asks you to do, like at 2:00 on a Tuesday during AEP, it can wait. Right? My own birthday lands October 27th. My son's like, hey, Dad, are we going out to dinner? I'm like, sure, 9:00 at night if you're hungry, bro. That's me, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and look, guys, I am never going to be Mr. Hustle Workaholic. I work hard, play hard. I'm never going to I don't ever miss my kids' important events.
Correct.
I am never going to neglect my family, even during annual enrollment. I'm going to be there. That's not what I'm saying. I used to go on a vacation right before AEP would start, like a little trip, weekend trip, maybe go to Disneyland with my family, something like that. And then once AEP was over, I'd do something again. And I would carve out and try to find those times and those moments along the way. But by and large, I would be committed to putting in at least 10 hours a day during that time. And I would just be efficient and productive with my time. the whole time.
Yep.
Okay. And part of that goes to be efficient with your scheduling. Like Rich said, don't go, oh, well, this guy wants to meet with me 2 hours away by the car. It's going to be 4 hours round trip. I'm going to blow my entire day up to go meet with one person that needs service work that's insistent that I meet with them. Be smart, be efficient with your time. Okay. So the last thing not the last thing, but the next step would be to diversify. Okay. Now, if 3 years ago, I was pretty much like, stay in your lane, agent. There's plenty of opportunity on Medicare. Oh, you want to do ACA? Cool. You be an ACA agent. You be a Medicare agent. You be a financial guy. Yeah. Once you're good, you can cross-sell and you can add some other plans. But like, there's plenty of opportunity doing what you're doing right now. Just you're better off to double down on that and grow. I completely think that an agent that's going to be successful going forward is diverse. They're sophisticated, an expert in their field, and they have the opportunity to help people with ACA or Medicare, ancillary. Do you need some life insurance products? I am not telling you to become the jack of all trades, master of none. I'm not telling you to sell every line of business with every carrier possible and be that guy that opens his trench coat and you've got a bajillion different things and nobody can decide and you're poorly trained on all of those. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is if have been in the Medicare space for quite a while and you have a good grasp on that, maybe it's time for you to add ACA to your portfolio so you can add that incremental revenue. Maybe if you've been on ACA agent and you have a good grasp on that, it's time for you to add Medicare and then start layering in these ancillary carriers and things like that, because you need to replace some of this income. As commission things go non-commissionable, as you lose revenue, as you lose opportunities, and your portfolio possibility shrinks down, you need to be able to have more products that you can offer people. We all know that, like, you know, the amount of policies per person you have just increases your retention. And the products that we have and house at Agent Boost are all good, great products. And our standard is if we wouldn't buy them ourselves or sell them to our family members, we don't have them, you know? And so I'm not saying go out there and get aligned with every random carrier out there, every small fly-by-night life insurance carrier and ancillary product out there, but be able to diversify and put the time and effort and education that it takes you to be an expert in those products to add those to your portfolios, okay? You can't just be, well, I know MA in this one state, and that's it. I'm a one-trick pony.
No, you can't do that.
One-trick ponies aren't surviving right now, okay? So when you do that, you can cross-sell. That's a big important step there. The other thing, you have to invest, this goes along with it, is invest in your success. And we always say you either have more time or you have more money, okay? And especially during AEP, I pitched this to a room. There was probably 200 agents sitting in front of me and a few hundred watching online. I don't know, whatever. And I can tell you all of those agents, they all get consumers and get in front of clients in a different way, shape, or form. As many different agents as there are out there are as many different ways of marketing, paid or otherwise. But you have to invest your time to develop these opportunities. There's a million different ways to go get in front of consumers and get referrals, but you have to put time and effort, and you have to either invest dollars and or time to developing those opportunities and fleshing those out, or you have to invest your dollars into leads, into somebody else who's figured that out to have success, okay? If you just show up at AEP, no money to spend, no plan, and no willingness to go beat the streets and generate leads or make connections or have any grassroots marketing efforts.
Have a goal of 150.
You're dead in the water,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, you're not going to make it.
No one's going to go, hey, Rich, I signed you up for this Walmart. I paid for it for you, and just go sit there and write 200 apps. I don't know. Maybe there's probably one agent out there that happens.
It's not zero, but it's not everybody for sure.
But you need to invest your time, your efforts, your mental energy, your training into knowing how you can get in front of consumers and or do that with your dollars or a combination of both, okay? Combination of both is probably best.
Yes, I agree.
So, and if you don't, like, how do I generate leads? is the most often question that we ever get asked. How do I get, but it's probably, if we're being realistic, it's probably also the laziest, you know, because there's a million different things and ways and opportunities that agents can and have got in front of people and do. It's just a matter of people going out there, putting in the work.
Well, I usually answer that question with, the answer is E, all of the above. What are you willing to do, right? Again, the question goes, do you have time or money or both, right? If you have time, then you better start going and building some relationships, right? You better go see those broker managers, go to those dentist office, go to those community centers and those things. And if you have money, well, the same, still do those other activities, but then, look into purchasing some leads. And I always tell my agents, hey, I want to buy some lead. Great. What's your budget? And it better not be $200, right? It better be a significant amount to make and actually make an impact so you can see a real ROI. Right?
Yeah, and look, guys, sometimes you got to spend money to make money. Early in my career, even back in the good old day that I lament about and talk about all the time, there were times when I'd spend $1,000. I spent $2,000 one time on a Golden Corral dinner where like 40 people showed up. And I'll be honest, I don't even know how I paid for it. Like I had to probably split it between a credit card or two or like really leverage that money back then in the early days of my career.
Back in my day.
Yeah. And I wrote 6 enrollments from that meeting. And I remember thinking, well, I'm going to cover this money and make a little bit of a profit. But at any way, shape or form, you have to invest your time or your money into leads. And there's a lot of ways now where you can be creative and you can go generate free opportunity, no cost opportunities, but you've got to go network and you've got to go also add value, right?
Yeah.
You can't just go around and I threw this one agent's card out of the senior center and put my card there, and I don't know why I'm not getting any sales out of it,
Yeah.
Like, come on, go add some value. There's a million different ways that agents will share your upline, your leaders, that will help you go have a million different ideas. You can use the Google machine and go where seniors are, right? Go where people need help with insurance. If you're doing ACA, there's a million different ways to do it. My final piece is, prepare for the disruption and prepare to take advantage of it, because this AEP, I actually forgot to say this, but last year, 26% of all Medicare Advantage beneficiaries changed their plan. I think this year is going to be even higher. And so there's a great migration of plans and people who are qualifying or not, or being moved. If you're an agent doing ACA, we don't even know what's happening with tax credits still yet. But no matter what happens, there's going to be massive opportunity with the Medicaid realignment and whatever goes on, where there's going to be a lot of movement and there's a lot of uncertainty, and in those great movements of all these millions of people, there's a lot of opportunity for people that need help with their health and wealth. And if you just double down and invest your time into becoming the agent, I honestly think that any agent that's willing to listen to an insurance podcast like this, you're the type of agent that's going to make it work. Because if you're not willing to invest in learning or other thoughts or listening to others, you're not going to progress. And so, I appreciate everybody that puts any time or attention into listening to what we say. I know some people really appreciate it. I know a lot of people disagree with some of the things we say, but hey, we're trying to help you all, help this industry remain the best opportunity out there, the best career, the reason why we love it so much. We're trying to maintain and still grow that opportunity for everybody.
One of the things that, kind of the thoughts I've been having and sharing with my agents is, I don't think this is my 13th, 14th AEP, and every year there's some, like, the sky is falling or chaos or this plan and that plan, and I've always just been like, well, hey, it is what it is, right? That's never fazed me, even this year, seeing all the changes. And the counsel I've been giving, some of my top agents and just agents in general is just, where there's chaos, there's opportunity, right? If you're willing to put in the time, energy, effort, be the expert, be the best you can be, and help the person on the other end of the phone or the other end of the kitchen table, you will succeed in this business, right? If you don't, then let's take a look at what you actually did or didn't do, and then we can adjust fire going forward. So that's just my take, man. Like, I love this business. I love this industry. I'm excited to see, kind of come out the other end, and what does December 8th look like when we cross, the imaginary finish line. I always tell agents it doesn't stop on the 7th. You go all the way to the end of the year. And now I believe it's March 31st.
Yeah.
You just keep
super
going.
AEP.
Super
because AEP transitions into OEP.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel the same way. It's really the 5.5, 6 month sub-segment. But my last component there is what I would say, guys, is if you do a good job and you work hard, have a goal in mind and then celebrate. Reward yourself, whether that be a trip, whether that be, buying yourself something nice. I'm not saying this is counterintuitive to what I tell, especially new agents. Don't go blow all your AEP money and like, oh, I finally, I made all this lump sum cash and go out and buy a brand new car that you shouldn't afford. But do something to celebrate and reward yourself, whether that just be like, a weekend getaway, treat yourself to something, set a goal, work hard, hit it, rinse and repeat. That's how you get ahead in this business.
Yeah,
okay?
For sure.
So, and that was the piece where I wrapped up and started talking about our agent producer trip to Oahu this next year. Anyway, if any of you can benefit from, some additional leadership, we'd love to work with you. Actually, our best time for agent recruiting and bringing on new agents and agencies into our business is right around AEP.
Yep.
Once it starts and people realize that they needed more help with a plan, or they weren't in a system that set them up for success, or they didn't have a partner that was helping them grow. And we actually bring on a lot of agents in Q4 of this year and Q1. And so if you're there, if you're looking for a new home, that's just my sales pitch. I don't feel like we ask enough on this, but we'd love to work with you if you, whether things are going great or whether you need some help. Thanks all.